These poems that I'm reading here are poems of Hafiz al-Shirazi, Hafiz of Shiraz, who was a Sufi teacher, a very important mystical teacher. He was initiated into a Sufi school in the 14th century, the school of Attar. And his poetry was so famous that even though he came from humble beginnings, he eventually drew the attention of the Shah of Shiraz and became a celebrity in his own time. But he also was extremely controversial in his own time. He was eventually to gain the enmity of the king of Shiraz and of the Muslim clergy there, because they interpreted many of his poems as calling them hypocrites. Eventually he was forced to flee his home city and go to Ishtahan, because if not, they were going to give him some kind of a severe punishment. It was the people of Shiraz that loved Hafiz so much that they protested and demanded that he be allowed to return safely, something that eventually the Shah gave into. When Hafiz was 60 years old, he had determined to himself that he was going to become awakened. And so he drew a circle on the ground and sat in the middle of that circle for 40 days. And the end of those 40 days were exactly the 40th anniversary of the day he had been initiated. And on that day, Hafiz attained awakening. He lived for 9 years after that, and during that time he wrote what would end up being more than half of his total body of poetry. And these are the poems that are considered the true core of his teaching. He taught students of his own at that point as a Sufi master. When Hafiz died, his enemies in the Muslim clergy refused to grant him a Muslim funeral. But again, the people of Shiraz, who loved him so much, demanded that he be given a hearing. So the clergy spoke to Hafiz's students, and they decided on an unusual method of determining if he was worthy of having a Muslim burial. They cut up all of his poems into two-line couplets, and they had a young boy draw one of them at random from a bunch. And the decision would be that if the couplet indicated some sign of divine favor, then Hafiz would be given a Muslim burial. And if not, he'd be buried as a heretic. And the couplet that was drawn by the boy said, "Neither Hafiz's body nor his life can deny, for all of his mischief, only heaven awaits him." So Hafiz was buried as a Muslim and is venerated as a great Sufi master to this day.